welcome back to another video. Today I am going to do sort of a continuation of my last video. If you saw my last video, it was on color blending and mixing, and I pretty much just showed you how you can mix your colors together to come up with other colors. I showed you what the grays in our Prismacolor set can be used for, and I wanted to make this video to sort of expand on what I showed you with the grays because so many of you have requested it. So I'm going to bring that part of the video to the coloring book. I'm going to be coloring in Romantic Country, a fantasy coloring book. This is one of my favorite coloring books, and I'm so sad because you cannot get it anymore. And I have literally used this coloring book on my channel so much for my tips and tricks series, and the pages are just all, you know, I've used it as just my tutorial book, and now I'm sad that I can't get another copy. So I guess I'm gonna have to keep looking because I really want another copy of this book. I think at this point it's turning into where this book is more of a collectible than anything else because I know so many people want to get their hands on this book. If you enjoy videos like this, please do make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn your bell notifications on so that you always know when I post new content. If you check the description box down below, you will find links down there to my email list as well as my Facebook group. I would love to have you join us over there. And also, I now have an Etsy store, and I've got a few new products in there and lots more to come. So if you want to check that out, I'll also have a link down there for that. Let's go ahead and get into this video. This is the page that I'll be coloring on. I already started coloring this page one night. I was just a little bit bored and I felt like coloring, so I colored in these peppers up here. I also started coloring the pumpkins here in this little wooden crate, and I wanted to color one in just so y'all could see what it looks like before I have added the much more drastic shadows, which is what I'm going to be showing you in this video. So first I'm going to show you exactly how I colored that pumpkin. I'm going to share with you the colors that I use so that if you have this book and you want to follow along, or if you want to grab another book where you know that you may have a pumpkin that you want to color, just so you could get a little bit of practice in, please do that. Let's go ahead and we are going to color this pumpkin, and I'm going to show you exactly how I color the pumpkin in, and then I'm going to show you how I use my grays to create that deep, dark, much more intense shadow to really bring the object on my coloring page to life. We are zoomed in now quite a bit, and I first want to share with you the colors that I'm going to be using, or my color combination for the pumpkin. I have terracotta and pumpkin orange. Of course, we need pumpkin orange because we're coloring a pumpkin. We could not leave that one out. I've got yellow to orange, sunburst yellow, and canary yellow. It looks like we have quite a bit of highlight colors here, and I know that these two here, this yellow to orange and the sunburst orange, they are rather close to one another. The sunburst yellow is a little bit lighter than the yellow to orange. I don't even remember if I used both of these colors in this pumpkin here, but I had them both set aside, and you all know, if you've seen my videos before, you know that I love and always have to have a very bright, intense highlight color, and so that's what I'm using the canary yellow for. It's my favorite, or one of my favorite yellow highlight colors. And when I'm using oranges or shades of orange, or even sometimes shades of red, then I always pull out some kind of yellow to highlight with. Let's go ahead and start coloring in this pumpkin here, and we are going to lay down the highlight first. So I am using my canary yellow, and I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to just add in some highlights where I want them. Okay, so we have a little bit of highlight in every part of the pumpkin. Now I'm going to use my sunburst yellow, and I'm just going to add a little bit of this in here right by where I've got that canary yellow. These colors are so pretty. I was just feeling like oranges today. I don't know, and I just wanted to color a pumpkin, even though it's not really that time of year to be coloring pumpkins. I mean, does it really matter? Okay, over here on this side, I want a little bit more of the oranges, and I like to lay the darker colors a little bit closer to the lines, because we're going to come back with even darker colors and we are really going to intensify those lines and make them really stand out like I did here in this pumpkin. I'm going to come in with the pumpkin orange and we're going to start adding some of this color in here to just make a pretty dramatic change. And I'm going to come in here right along where I've got a lot of the edges because I really want these to stand out. And I'm using really light pressure on my pencil at this point, because we all know Prismacolors are pretty well pigmented. And over here where I've got this pumpkin laying in front of this other pumpkin, I want to keep this area over here lighter so that it really stands out and it makes this pumpkin look like it is actually laying behind the other pumpkin. And so over here, right here where I've got this pumpkin laying to the front of both of these pumpkins, I'm going to have to make this area lighter so that you can tell what is laying to the forefront and what is laying to the back. Down here where we've got these pumpkins actually laying inside of the wooden crate, all of these areas in here are going to have to be darker. And I will come back with my darker color and I will make sure that I lay some of my much darker colors down in these areas, just because we really want those areas to stand out. And then this over here, I would assume that it has more shade since it's sort of tilted and it doesn't seem to be getting that much sunlight. So I'm going to make sure this area over here is going to be much darker than the rest or the other areas of the pumpkin. And of course, it's going to help much more when I come back in with my darker colors. And don't be afraid to go over a little bit where you've laid your highlight colors or the lighter colors, because the colors will just sort of blend in for you and they will all come together in the end. It's really just creating a whole nother layer for you. And that is the whole purpose of using colored pencils. You want to just apply your layers and blend them all together. So now I have the terracotta, and I'm going to come in here with this terracotta and I'm going to make much more of an intense shadow in all of the areas where we need a more intense shadow. Now, like I said earlier, over here, I want to keep a very, very little bit of a highlight right there, if you could see that. And then I'm going to come all in here and I'm going to create more shadows. And I'm going to try to stay up against the lines of the pumpkin, just because I want to make sure that those lines are really going to dramatically stand out. You see what happened when I went over this line here? The more you go over the lines, they are really going to start to really pop off the page, and that's what gives the object on your coloring page a lot more dimension. And then, like I said earlier, I'm going to make sure that there's a lot more shadows all in these areas here. And I'm just going to pull the color down just a little bit. And like I said earlier, I want to keep this highlighted area here. So I'm going to keep that sunburst yellow and the canary yellow just right here in this area where I want that highlight to really stand out. Because if you mix your highlight colors really well together and put them all in the right places with your shadowing colors, that is how you're going to create all that extra depth and dimension. Now, I will say in this book, the paper is smoother. The paper doesn't have the same amount of texture as if I was using something like maybe printed something out and was using my Spring Hill paper that I love so much. And so it doesn't, you know, the texture's not there, so it doesn't have a way for the paper to just really pull that color in so you could continue to keep applying layer after layer after layer. And here I'm just pulling the colors together because, like I said, in this book it's a little bit harder to blend. I have found that in this book the polychromos work beautifully in this book, but I thought about bringing them out today and I didn't, just because my previous video where I showed you all of, you know, the grays and how to do the color blending and the mixing and all of that, I used Prismacolors. So I wanted to be able to continue this lesson or this tutorial using Prismacolors. And so maybe next time I will do one with the polychromos so we can see how it works with the polychromos as well. I'm going to come in here with my pumpkin orange, and I'm going to add just a few lines in here just to make this look a little bit more realistic. I guess now I need to do it to the other pumpkin as well. Just intensifying the highlighted areas just a little bit more. And this will just blend some of that color in as well. I kind of liked how the white looked when it was there, but then I don't know, that doesn't look natural for a pumpkin to me, so I'm going to make it all yellow. And I feel like that looks a little bit more natural. Now we've got both of those pumpkins colored in, and I want to show you exactly what I'm going to do with the grays. Now, if you remember, let me color in the top of the pumpkin here, and for that over here I used the olive green and then this beautiful lime peel color. It's one of my favorites. So all I did for that was I just came in over here and put a little bit of color, and then I just pulled it down with my lime peel. I didn't make, it's such a small area, I didn't make it necessarily super artistic in any way. I just colored it in really quickly. And I love this book because it's got all the gray lines in it. I don't know if you are familiar with the artist, but the way that these books were created is everything was done with a toothpick. So all of the artwork in all of the books was actually created using just a toothpick, which I find really cool and just so interesting that someone can be that creative and do something like that. And these pages in this book are just beautiful. So we are going to use the grays now. And when you are using reds and yellows and oranges, if you didn't see my previous video, I'll make sure that is linked in the upper right hand corner so that you understand this a little bit more in depth. But I'm not going to get into it a whole lot in this video because I wanted this video to be the demonstration in a coloring book. But when you're using warm colors such as reds and yellows and oranges, you are going to use warm grays and you're going to create your shadows that way. So like I said in my last video, you don't want to go all in and use the darker color first, but I picked 30% warm gray and 50% warm gray, and we're going to start lighter because it's always easier to start lighter and then add a little bit more if you feel like you've not done enough. It's much harder to go in with the darker color and then realized, oops, I didn't want to do that, because it's much harder to be able to pick up the pigment off of the coloring page. So always start with the lighter gray, and I'm going to show you why you have all these grays in your Prismacolor set. They're not just to color gray objects. But I'm going to take my 30% warm gray, and I am going to see how this one will work. And we're just going to go over the areas where we want a shadow. And look at that. Do you see how that just intensifies the shadowed area even more? And you're not pushing hard with your colored pencil because all you're trying to do is create a shadow. You're not trying to make it look gray. So if I just go over all of these areas where I wanted it to look shadowed and I use very light pressure, it is just going to make it look a little bit darker and intensify your shadow. And I'm going to do this all around the pumpkin in all of the areas where I want that shadow to be really pronounced. And if you're doing this, like I'm doing this right now, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I could come in with my darker color, but I'm going to lay a little bit more of this color down here just so that I'm sure. But yeah, I'm looking at this now and I don't think it's making enough of a drastic difference for me. So now I'm going to move up to the 50% warm gray, and we are going to try this one and see what happens. But see, this one you have to go really lightly because this is a much darker color. Even going up by 20% like this, it is going to be quite a bit darker. And you could probably see that as I'm laying the color down, but look at the dramatic change. Is that not just the coolest thing you've ever seen? I'm so fascinated by this. I really am. I love how colors work together, and all these little tricks and things that you can do with your colored pencils. I'm going to add a little bit up here, and I'm going to come down here where I want this to look like it is laying in front of this other pumpkin. But I really think that this is the right gray. But look how it just looks like it just darkened it up. I'm pretty sure you could see the difference between this one and this one. But if I keep coming in here and I just lay down more of this color, it's going to continue to dramatically change it. Just don't add too much, and make sure that you have light pressure behind your pencil. And I said over here I wanted this side of the pumpkin to look much darker, so I'm just adding a little bit extra over there. Now, if you want to come back with your darkest color, which was the terracotta, and go over that gray, you can also do that so that it just sort of hides some of the look of that gray, and it intensifies it even more and just blends the colors back in. Now, do you see the difference in the pumpkin? So looking at the two pumpkins next to one another, you can see that just adding the gray and then going over it and blending it through with the terracotta again and just adding a little bit more pigment down on the paper, it has made quite a bit of a difference. Now with this paper, like I said earlier, it doesn't have a whole lot of tooth, so you have to kind of just keep going back in there really lightly with more and more light layers, because you don't have a whole lot of tooth on this paper and it is smoother. But if we were working on a paper that had a lot more tooth, the effects would be even more dramatic. And even if I wanted to come in and try a 70% warm gray, I mean, that might be going too dark. Maybe we should try it. Let me grab my 70% warm gray. And see, this is why my videos go so long, because I like to just keep experimenting. But I'm going to take the 70% warm gray, and I am just going to go over just where the lines are. Oh my gosh, look at the difference. So I'm just going to do this in every place where I've got the line of the pumpkin. Wow, so that made even quite a bit more difference. And then you're going to want to come back over it with your terracotta, because you want to sort of blend some of that color out. You don't want to see gray. So that's why when you're using warm colors, you use warm grays, because you want the colors to just naturally blend in with one another and come together in the right way without looking, or without the gray looking gray. And I'm going to add quite a bit more down in here. Okay, I absolutely love it. So I need to fix the other pumpkin now with my grays. So I am going to just, I think I'm just going to go right in with my 50% warm gray, and I'm not even going to bother with the 30% because I feel like it made a much more dramatic change. And now you could see it already, since I didn't start with the lesser color. So if you're coloring a bunch of different objects on a page and they're all pretty much the same, and you've already experimented on one side, you can do that and just go right in and get done what you want to get done. But look at the change. It's so, I don't know. Like I said earlier, this just fascinates me. I love playing around with color. And that's why, I don't know, I guess that's why I'm so obsessed with colored pencils. That's not a bad thing, right? Now I'm going to come back in with my terracotta, and I'm going to intensify that just a little bit more and blend those colors together so that the gray doesn't look gray. I hope y'all are trying this right along with me. Now I'm going to come and I'm going to add in some of my 70% warm gray to this one as well. And I'm only gonna do it just over here in these areas where I don't know, I think it would just naturally be a little bit darker over here. I don't generally follow any rules, I guess, when I'm coloring. Like a lot of people, I don't know, I've done videos like this in the past where I talk about lighting and everything else and where to lay your colors. And I'll link one of those in the upper right hand corner if you're interested in seeing that. But a lot of times I just sort of follow my own rules, or I just do what I think is going to look best when I'm coloring, because it's not about being perfect, and it's not about having to follow all the rules of art. It's about coloring and having fun and just doing what you want to do. And that's basically why I did this video today too, is because I just wanted to color. And I don't get a lot of time to color unless I'm filming it. And a lot of my videos lately have not really been me coloring. And I really want to get back to coloring because, I don't know, it's just, even if I'm doing it and I'm filming myself, it's just still so relaxing. So I'm just going to get this other one colored in, and I'm going to speed this one up to music, and I'm going to do that now. So the other pumpkin is now colored in, and I'm just going to come in here with my 70% warm gray, and I'm going to just intensify some of the areas that I want to really stand out, like where the pumpkin or one pumpkin is laying in front of the other one. And I'm going to use, I'm not necessarily using such light pressure, I guess, because I really want it to just stand out in these areas. And when somebody looks at your coloring page, they're not going to see gray. They're just going to see the objects on your coloring page really standing out. And so now I'm just going to come back and I'm going to blend in some of that terracotta again, just to take away the look of the gray. Maybe I'll add a little bit down here in some of these areas right here where it is, or where the pumpkins are laying inside this little wooden crate here. Just makes such a dramatic difference. And then I just come back in here and blend these colors together. And see how I ended up going with the darker gray in the end? I don't know, I like to warn and say, don't do that in the very beginning. Experiment, because you could always lay color over color. Very hard to pick pigment up if you have laid it down and then you decided you made a mistake. So you don't want to be in that situation. I mean, I've done it before and it's totally possible, but it's better to not just jump in and then get upset because you feel like you made a mistake. And I don't know, I also like to think that there really are no mistakes, but I know a lot of us look at our coloring page and we're just like, oh, we made a mistake. And I hate for anyone to feel that way, because I know I don't like to feel that way. And I always tell myself there are no mistakes. It is just, you know, a learning experience, and everything is fixable. I actually did a video like that and showed y'all how to fix your mistakes and if I could find it, I'll link it in the upper right hand corner. But I did one video in my tips and tricks series where I completely took all the pigment up off a page, or off of the, I think it was a pot that I was coloring. I think it was in this book too, but I completely removed all of the pigment. I went back over, I recolored it in, and you could never even tell that it was ever colored in the first place. So it's possible to fix every single mistake, so don't ever fear. Our pumpkins are done, and I love how they turned out. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you tried this little experiment and you tested out using your grays, please share with me in my Facebook group so I could see what you were able to do. Now, I do want to mention that if you were using cool colors like blues and greens and colors like that, then when you came in with your grays, you would use cool grays to do the same thing. If you would like to see me do a video where I do the same thing and I'm using cool colors, I would be glad to do that. Just let me know in the comments below. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Happy coloring. Bye.